everybody and get down to here. I'm going to explain what we're going to do today. They're about, I should have put, they're about $180.
Japanese honeysuckle, isn't it? See, it's like hard even. Look at how high look at how high the multiflora goes up. And if, no, because we want to show people. And then that's on a privet, I believe.
Yeah, it is.
So it's privet, multiflora rose, Japanese honeysuckle.
We're about ready to start our little event today. Fayetteville Tree and Landscape Advisory Committee. We're a committee of the city of Fayetteville. And we have arranged several programs this year as outreach programs to help people understand more about how to take care of their land. And a part of our mission is to be education, and that is to help people learn how to deal better with the trees and the bushes and the shrubs and helping native things grow around their homes. Cindy Cope, she and Don Steinkraus here, which they both designed a brochure specifically for this and to be used in the future. You might have seen it when you checked in about invasive species here in Fayetteville. We're not left out. Other cities, other states have brochures about invasive species, and now we're on board too. So they worked really hard in the last couple of weeks to make that happen for us just today. And Bob Kalk. Today we have 2 of these orange weed wrenches to demonstrate. And if you decide you like those things, you can order it for yourself and don't tell us anything about it. Or we're going to try to make a stable of weed wrenches. We're going to try to get some money donated, or either someone can buy them and donate them for themselves, donate them so people can check them out and go home and attack bush honeysuckles. So there's a place to sign up over there on that sign-up sheet that you are interested in either borrowing a weed wrench or contributing money so we'll have a stable of weed wrenches, or buying a weed wrench, putting it in the stable, and then just keeping it at home when you want to use it yourself. We would do that. So that's a possible outcome of today's meeting. Anyway, what we plan to do today is, first we'll have Don Steinkraus is going to tell us, let me find my little list here. He's going to show us what he notices around here in the way of invasive plants. Then we'll walk up to that table over there and look at the specimens some people have brought in of plants that they consider invasive and identify them. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about how to get rid of them as we look at them. And then Bernie is going to tell us, then we'll get into the phase of removing them. And Bernie, who's with the Washington County Extension Service, will tell us about the chemical method of removing them, as much as he can tell us about that today. And then Don is going to show us the manual dig and pull method. And then Bob said he would demonstrate his weed wrench for us. So that's the plan so far. And then after that, we will team up. Anybody that wants to come and stay and help us get some of these out of here, we'll get them out today by the various methods that we know about. And then we brought some little baby plants here that we'll be putting in place of them, little native plants. It's not a good idea to pull them up unless you have something to put in place of them. And one other little thing about this whole project is that somebody's going to have to come and watch them and take care of them. And that I will be helpful to do that. But anybody else that's at all interested in being somebody that helps watch for these little plants and keep this place clear, since we're going to work so hard to clear it, sign up on the sheet over there and give us your phone number and say, I'm willing to help with that once in a while. Just call me when you want to go down or set up a work date or something like that.
I think what we're doing is really important for Fayetteville and Northwest Arkansas. I think we've reached a critical point where these invasive plants are taking over the town. They're killing almost everything that was native here, and there's several reasons why we want to clean these out of the town as much as possible. In our little brochure, we're pretty strong, but you should pick one up, and we listed the plants we think are most important. And the headline we said is "Kill these invasive plants on site without mercy." I actually think, nobody should leave them in their yards, and if the city can get rid of them and replace them with native plants, we'll be much better off in the long run. Now one reason why that is these things aren't totally ugly. I grew up with bush honeysuckle. I thought it was a native plant when I was a kid. It's kind of pretty. And this is multiflora rose. As a kid, I used to also see that in upstate New York. I thought that was kind of pretty. And a lot of people tell me they like Japanese honeysuckle. It smells very fragrant. So why should we get rid of these things? They're actually kind of attractive. Well, there's a number of reasons why they're not good for our ecosystem. Well, first of all, as an entomologist, I'll point out why. I'm interested in the beauty of insects and the diversity of insects. And these are some of our popular insects. These are swallowtails. Almost all these insects have specific food requirements. They can't live on bush honeysuckle or Japanese honeysuckle. So you can go by. For instance, this is a pipevine swallowtail. pipevine swallowtail only eats Aristolochia, or Dutchman's pipe. And that's a native plant, and I think you'd search high and low in here to find many Dutchman's pipe because they've been replaced by Japanese honeysuckle here. This is a Japanese honeysuckle growing up this plant. There's multiflora rose growing up this plant, and the plant that's growing up is a privet. All of these are invasive plants from other countries that don't belong here, aren't supporting our caterpillars. So they're not supporting pipevine swallowtails. This is a very beautiful swallowtail which eats spice bush, which is another native plant. So they're not developing on these things. So all these beautiful butterflies, and particularly things like zebra swallowtail, only eats pawpaw. And so if you walked along the trail here, I think you have a hard time finding a pawpaw anymore. Whereas my wife and I have some property out in West Fork, which has not been totally invaded by these plants, and there's lots of pawpaw and spice bush and pipevine. And also, another problem with these plants is they leaf out very early, and they kill everything underneath. So if you search underneath here, you're not going to find trilliums and jack-in-the-pulpits and May-apples and all of the beautiful plants, bloodroots, which normally would be here. So these are killing our understory plants. They're killing all of our plants which support caterpillars. Now, there's lots of interesting information on the interaction between birds and insects. This is a book on the decline of songbirds. There's a number of reasons why birds are declining. This is a book on just the role of insects in bird life. But when the whole understory becomes like bush honeysuckle and these other plants, they're not producing the caterpillar numbers and diversity which our birds need for their nestlings. And so if you get nothing else out of what we're doing today, this book by Doug Tallamy. He's been here several times to speak. It's called Bringing Nature Home. He's one of the prime researchers. He's an entomologist in Delaware, and he writes papers on how many caterpillars are supported by native plants and non-native plants. And they find like at least 14 times less caterpillars are on these non-native plants. And we practically covered the continent with non-native plants. So without the diversity and the numbers of caterpillars, we also lose our diversity and numbers of songbirds. So the songbirds may not go extinct, but there'll be a lot fewer of them and a lot worse success. But this is, if you look along this trail, it's almost wall-to-wall bush honeysuckle. It's pretty, but it's very invasive. So why are they so invasive? Because they produce millions of berries. That's true of multiflora rose. They say a multiflora rose plant can produce 1 million seeds a year, and the seeds can last 20 years in the soil. So like in the east, multiflora rose is really taking over, and it's happening here. It's going to take over more. The time to start removing these invasive plants is now. Otherwise, we'll have nothing but invasive plants. And a lot of the vines we're talking about, like English ivy, are attractive, but they kill the trees. The euonymus vines kill the trees. I think it's terribly serious that we start developing a citizenry which will try to remove these plants. And I mean it. I mean kill them on site and try to remove everyone and replace them with a native plant. It'd be a lot of hard work, but if we don't, we're going to have a landscape that's dominated totally by invasives. We're going to have less birds, and we're going to have less beautiful moths and butterflies. I brought some butterflies and moths just to show you, but I mean almost all of these things are adapted for our native plants and cannot feed on these invasives. So you won't find the diversity of insects. Even our pollinators don't like these things very much. So even the honeybee, which is an exotic itself, doesn't like these things very much. It feeds very little on bush honeysuckle. And if you look at our landscape, if you walk this trail, I bet there are 1 million bush honeysuckles on this trail. 1 million. So that's about all I have to say. I think you can just look around. I mean, behind you is vinca. That's non-native. Bush honeysuckles surrounding you. The multiflora roses, the Japanese honeysuckle, they're everywhere. It doesn't take any difficulty to find them. So I think I'll turn it over to Bernie at this point and let him talk about things. But come up and look at some of these books. This is a terrific book by David Wagner at the University of Connecticut. It's on the caterpillars of the United States, and it's a terrific book. I mean, you can't beat it for identifying caterpillars, but also showing the importance of native plants. I wrote him just the other day, and he said it's very important that we're starting to do this.
Ever since man decided to settle down and start working agriculture eons ago, man started working with plants. I mean, that's to produce food. If it's an annual crop or a perennial crop like trees, he tamed plants like the apple tree from the wild. And man started moving things. And then man started to explore further beyond and took things with them wherever they went. So the word native to invasive becomes kind of cloudy at times. What is native? What is invasive? There are some native plants that can be invasive if you give that space. And we will be giving space today, and there's a native plant that will want to be here, and most likely there are dormant seeds here that will pop up. And some of you probably already conjuring what that is. It's a cedar, the Juniperus virginiana, the eastern red cedar. It's a native, but it certainly can be a weed. So we have to understand why we have plants where we do, and not all non-natives are invasive. The percentage is very small. So yes, you can still enjoy some ornamentals that are your favorites, but know what you have, or know what the potential of something new could be. There's some great ornamental trees that we're beginning to see at nurseries that are native to the Orient region. But by gosh, they're terrific cedars, produce a lot of seeds. I'm in question. 50 years from now, will they be another tree of heaven, or some of us know it as elanthus? We'll see them along the interstates, and I think further down the trail there's a number of that species. So beware of what you're planting, what you're introducing. The state of Arkansas and most other states have a government body that tries to limit these things that can become invasive, and that's the Arkansas State Plant Board in Arkansas, and they have a list of noxious weeds and invasive weeds. Because of resources, they're limited on enforcements. All they can do is prevent nurseries from selling some things, but that doesn't prevent you from, or anyone else from, bringing it across the border from Missouri or Oklahoma or wherever from. It can travel interstate, and they're not going to stop cars at the crossings in the U.S., but things do travel. So the terms native and invasive kind of get washy there. Know what you have. I mentioned the seed reserves. You know that cedars might be here, but there's a lot, and I think Dr. Steinkraus mentioned that, how many berries can be produced, and seeds can lay dormant in the soil for years until the environment is perfect for that seed to germinate. So 30 years from now, if we wipe all the bush honeysuckles out of here, 30 years from now you can still find a seed plant coming up. So where I'm getting at is, us starting this today is a long-term project. For us, you might say, it's never ending. It's going to be lifelong, that we'll be working on this. So the key to this whole thing is, let's prevent new things from coming in and then not cloud what we do have as native. But understand our want to get rid of bush honeysuckles and the multifloral rose and others, because we do need to put some halt to this. It is, as Dr. Steinkraus said, in regards to the insect population, but my love is plants, and he mentioned the native understory trilliums and such, bloodroot, that this has prevented from. They may have been here, but now they're gone because they're shaded out. Some of the possible problem plants that we have in our landscapes that aren't in the woods here yet, that might. Japanese barberry. I love Japanese barberry. It comes in several versions from leaf color, but they are very prolific fruit seed producers. Up northeast, it is invasive. It has escaped. It hasn't escaped in our region. Why hasn't it? I'm not really sure. Maybe we haven't had it in our landscapes long enough yet. Another one I have down is winged euonymus. That's another one that northeast it is a problem, invader. Very gorgeous. Some of you know it as burning bush. It's another euonymus, non-native. That's one to keep a watch out on. Didn't hear you mention what's across the path here. If you look behind you, you see the vinca minor, non-native, certainly has taken up the understory. Some native ephemeral plants can't grow in that because they don't have the space. It's preventing the sun from hitting the ground, what's there now. Probably more invasive than the vinca minor is the vinca major. Fortunately, there's not much of it around. I made the mistake of planting vinca major about 20 years ago, one sprig, and it's just... So I have started to mow it now before it gets to the woods. I'm sure I can add some more things to that list, and you probably have some things in your mind. I hear the pear. The pear is in the brochure, and yes, you can find some naturalized calorie pear in Fayetteville area. They have a little bit more aggressive naturalizing a little bit further south towards Fort Smith. In that Fort Smith interstate corridor, if you were down there in the last month, you saw a cloud of white. Just looked like you were driving through a drift of snow. That's the calorie pear. Some of you know it as the Bradford pear, but Bradford is only one of the calorie pears. They all are very prolific seed producers. Now, my part of the program was to talk about the chemical control methods, and why would you even consider using chemical control when something can be lifted by using a shovel or this unique, what is it called, this orange? Weed wrench. That's a tongue twister for me. But we'll see this guy in action, and I've watched on YouTube those in action. It looks like it'll work, and I guess we'll see it working today. So why would you even consider using herbicides? One, the more soil you disturb, the more seeds you'll expose to more opportune conditions for it to germinate. So the less you can disturb the soil, the less you'll expect to come back. So that's one reason. A second reason is what's behind us is behind you is a riparian area, wetland area. If you do much of that using shovels and such in a wetland area, you could cause some damage to the stream's bank and erosion. So second reason you might consider using herbicide. Third reason is the darn thing is so large you can't dig it out, or you can't use the wrench to pull it out. So hack it and then using a herbicide may be very effective. Unfortunately, quick answer is no, there isn't any organic herbicide, if I can call it that, or a safe herbicide, if I can call it that. But there are mechanical methods besides uplifting, uprooting. You could do the cut and just mechanically prevent it from resprouting by covering the darn thing up. Black plastic or something heavy, and with time it will be smothered. Of course, you're going to lose some time there if you're wanting to replant, but that will be a non-chemical method, just covering it up, preventing it from seeing the sunlight. When it doesn't see its source of energy, then it's not going to grow for you. Initially, certainly it'll push because it has reserved energies in the soil and in the roots, but it'll soon give up the ghost. So the control burns. Control burns get rid of the invasive. To some degree, yes, but no, because they're so well established. if we have those control burns seasonally, like once upon a time it occurred here, the seedlings could not get established. But these are very established plants, so control burns are not going to be effective. Now, the chemical products that I would recommend, which is a recommended practice by a number of communities in controlling invasives. And these are two different products that are if you want to use the term, is there a friendly herbicide but a man-made? These two would categorize to that. And the reason is because these products become ineffective when exposed to sunlight for an extended period of time. They are made of the chemical makeup and connection of the organic chemicals is such that it's very weak, and it's can be busted apart by sunlight. And soil microbes, bacteria, just eat them up, and they quickly become back to it's organic chemistry. They unjoin and become just an organic substance in the soil. There is a concern if you don't follow the label's instructions. This is a label for one of these products, and following instructions properly will safeguard against problems. Problems for you, problems for Mother Nature. There's a reason why it's there. And if you don't follow these guidelines, then you'll make a case for, bad stuff. So if you're going to use these products, protect yourself, protect the environment, and it means reading this thing front to back. But as a cut spray, when something's too large, you can cut the thing down and spray. The time of year is very important, and this is not it. This is the wrong time of year to use herbicides to get rid of these invasive plants. The right time is, just think in the spring, things are going up. The sap is rising, and it is rising. Starting to green up. In the late summer, the plant is shutting down because it knows that winter's coming, and it's starting to put food reserves back down the roots. Well, that's the time of the year you will be most effective in using Roundup. And the other one commonly is called brush begone. Triclopyr is the chemical name. Triclopyr works great if you have grasses, native grasses, and don't want to hurt your native grasses. It does not kill grasses, whereas Roundup would. Roundup is what we term as a non-selective herbicide. It doesn't care what you spray it on, it might kill it. But the triclopyr will not kill grasses, so it is selected for broadleaf type plant material. But its effectiveness, so most often the glyphosate product is used. And the percent of the product, if it's a spray on the foliage application, it's 1.5% mix. And 1.5% translates to about 4 tablespoons per gallon. Now, it's August, September, and you have a monster larger than this, and you can cut it close to the ground, you would take a mixture of 25% Roundup, 25 to 33, they say a quarter to a third of active product, and put it into a mix, and on a fresh cut, that day, not the next day, that day, you would hit the cut surface. That's all you need to do. If you have a large area, you would probably want to do a pump up type sprayer. Most of us will be working in small areas. Why mix up something that can be broken down by sunlight, and with time, just mix up what you need. Now, there's mixing directions in here too. You need to be safeguarding yourself. It is a toxin. Roundup, you have to use a chemical-resistant glove. A surgical glove is not going to work. One of those safety type gloves not going to work. Leather glove is not going to work. We're talking about heavier than dishwashing gloves that you're going to have to use to use and mix this product. And wear glasses. All this is in here. Wear long pants, long shirt, and you're going to protect yourself. You don't need a mask on, but just something to protect your eyes so you don't get splashing into the eyes. Okay, I've talked about the time of year, and that would be late summer, early fall. Once the leaves have dropped, too late. Now, because some of these are so large today, there's another time you can spray, and that's after the flush. You can see some of the bush honeysuckles. These were cut during the winter, and look at the tremendous regrowth they have made thus far. Once they slow down, and we're talking about June, early June, you can come with a 3% or 2% solution of Roundup and spray them directly over the top, and that's going to take care of them. You don't have to wait till fall to do that. There's no way you can spray an entire tall bush, so that's why we encourage hacking, cutting down, and then hitting them in June. So we're not going to use any herbicides today because it's the wrong time to do it. But it is the right time. Temperature is still great. It is the right time to use the tools to pull and such. So,
Yeah, I'm kind of a minimalist. I like to do things the least complicated way possible. I don't like to use chemicals, even as an entomologist. And I know lots of people that spray their houses if they see one spider. I believe in using a vacuum cleaner if you see bugs in your house, or take them out. But for most of these plants, I also think you can dig them up. It's good exercise. I like using a fork. And when the plants are small, the best time to take these things like bush honeysuckles out is when they're small. When they get really big, then they are a problem, and it can take a lot of work to pull them up. So I guess I'm going to try to find a small bush honeysuckle and show what I would do. I also like wearing boots because it protects your feet. And these are bee gloves, which I like because they protect my hands from rough stuff, and especially with things like multiflora roses, they protect me from getting scratched. And so you want to protect yourself from the physical problems of doing these things. So let's look over here. I thought I saw some little bush honeysuckles over here. Some of these you could probably pull up directly if they're still small. There. That's most of that bush honeysuckle is gone. And so when they're small in the spring, especially I find right before they start leafing out, they haven't started producing their roots, you can even pull up pretty big bush honeysuckles by hand very easily. So this is a lot easier than when they're like a big woody plant. So a person could come along here and pull up most of these bush honeysuckles by hand without even cutting them. So that's what I recommend for the little ones. Just pull them up. Unfortunately, we do have a big mess here. It's like I don't even know myself what I would do here with all this vinca. One of the people here was asking me, well, if I pull up the vinca, what should I replace it with? And I don't have a good answer for that. Ideally I'd say put like trilliums in and May-apples. But that'd be a hard thing to do. You probably couldn't find a nursery that could supply you with inexpensive trilliums and May-apples. So we may have to develop some new strategies to deal with. But this is going all the way down, and the root systems of this vinca are very dense. So the little ones, I just pull them up. Especially I'd say in March, you can just go find them. And when they first start leafing out, just pull them up by hand. They don't have a very strong root system, so it's quite easy to get them out of here. But let's go look at a larger one.
What is this? This is not the...
That is a clematis, I believe.
That's what I thought it might
And I'm not sure if that's native or non-native. Bernie might know, or someone else might, but I don't know. You do want to be careful. Like, I think you really want to be careful you don't destroy your native things at the same time. So let's see. There's a medium-sized bush honeysuckle back here. There are a lot of native nurseries still around. Yeah. I don't.
There's a woman on the square.
Yeah, there's one down near Clarksville where there's a lot of native stuff. It's expensive though. Yeah, White River does. Yeah, they're expensive. It's not cheap to get the native plants. That's something the nurseries could work on. If you could create a demand for spice bush and pawpaw and stuff, we'd have better luck. But so I'm looking. Here's a medium-size bush honeysuckle right here. I don't know if I'm strong enough to pull that one out. Well, see, even that one I can pull most of it up and get it out. Okay. A lot depends on the soil type too, but you know, there's a pretty big plant, and so you can go through and get some of these out without too much trouble. And so that would be my first choice. There's just so much stuff in here that it's hard to know where to start. Now, for instance, here's a multiflora rose. The way I generally deal with those is clip them with a good clipper, and that's why I like to wear my gloves. These things have, this one doesn't particularly have wicked thorns on it, but
While you're there, show the others. People have been asking about these.
Oh.
And we got identified.
Well, Bernie can help me too. This looks to me like Japanese honeysuckle. This is actually a very beautiful plant. It's got a terribly fragrant flower. It's got a tropical smell. It's very pretty, and a lot of people like it. But it's also terribly invasive. And I think there's alternatives. I was trying to think, what would I plant in place of Japanese honeysuckle? I'd place some of the native hollies have terribly fragrant flowers at the same time of year. Native hollies would be a good thing, or non-invasive exotics. You know, there's lots of like peonies are not very invasive. They're exotic, but they're terrifically scented. So, you know, if you like scents, there's roses which are non-invasive. You can replace them with scented plants. But this plant, unfortunately, is a killer. I mean, it will kill native plants. We have some native plums out on our land in West Fork, and it was killing them. It covers them up so they can't get any photosynthesis. And it also strangles the things with their tight, spiraled vine.
It's even more widespread than the bush, huh?
It may be, but to me the number one plant here that we should work on right now is bush honeysuckle, because our town is like covered up.
We have a chance to get rid of it.
Well, I don't know if we have a chance. Actually, I think it's like almost a monumental. Like there's like I don't know 100 people here maybe. If we get 10,000 people to say we're going to spend a day digging them up and killing them, we might have a chance. But the city might be able to do something if they gradually work on it. And this is a climbing euonymus. This is also, unfortunately, Wilson Park has these things in it, and they strangle the trees. They also, during the ice storm, they add a tremendous weight to the branches on the trees, and that resulted in tremendous weight of ice, which broke the branches even more. It's like having, if you're drowning and someone grabs you and clutches you and pulls you under. It's like they're really heavy plants.
So what would you suggest planting in place of that? I have a lot of that.
The climbing honeysuckle? I mean, it's not climbing euonymus?
Yes. And
I would say take it out totally. I wouldn't replace it with.
because I've got it growing along the ground.
Now,
too.
do note that there are several different euonymus species. There are several hundred euonymus species. This happens to be a very aggressive trailer, but once it hits something, it'll go up. Plants that I'm trying to untwine and get rid of. I had master gardeners for years
We need to
helping.
clear the trail.
And one of the things that they did, they used the exclusion method. They used black plastic on that thing, but on the edges it kind of took off again. Here's I like to use the term tree of heaven because I can't say
Ailanthus.
ailanthus. It stinks like crazy. It's one of the most recognizable smells.
Let me see.
Very, very prolific cedar.
It's pretty stinky.
You go down I-40, you see it. It will grow in the toughest soil, and as well as the best soil. So it's pretty tough. Get rid of it. It's a golden rain tree, and it kind of does. But will it come up by the roots? Yes, you'll get some suffering to occur. Yes.
I think one of the important things is like even my wife and I, we planted some English ivy in our backyard. Big mistake. You know, it's like people think these things belong in our system, and they don't. And they don't belong on our trees. And once you can get that idea in your head, you can take them out at least of your own yard and kill them on your own yard. There's no reason to have English ivy growing up your tree. It is picturesque, but I don't believe that it's actually an important thing to have here. So don't plant some of these things to begin with. And like Bernie says, think about it. I think if you have a native alternative, plant that over an exotic. I think it'll support the caterpillars, which then support the birds. So that's an important thing to me, is that you have this cycle of caterpillars and birds and non-invasive plants.
I think I brought a bittersweet. Can anybody see that? That might be it. I think that's it. Anyway.
Do you want to?
I was going to ask. I've been clearing out my backyard here recently. We kind of halfway talked about it. I think. Are there some examples of native species that are common that we see here that I can not knock out when I'm
in here right now? You know, there's not a lot. We have a little black cherry coming up here, which is native and supports a lot of caterpillars. Yes, so you wouldn't want to take. You do want to be able to identify them, so you don't take out.
Well, I used to call it bird cherry, but I don't think it's actually bird cherry. Wild cherry around here.
Wild cherry is a good plant. Wild black cherry is a good plant. It's good for pollinators, and it's good for caterpillars, and it's good for birds.
I guess there's some like dock. There's escape forage grass.
Really,
it's tough. You've got to start learning a lot to do this.
I know.
But this little brochure will help.
Everybody ready to see the weed wrench in action?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just an opportunity to get a little mechanical advantage in pulling these things out. And really, the way it works is you put it around the base of whatever it is you're trying to pull out. Put your foot on it until the jaw closes, and then you just push down. And with a little luck, it'll come out.
Good job, Bob.
yes, there is poison ivy here. If you're allergic, I have one going up the tree right there, right by my hand. I'm allergic to it. Yeah. Poison ivy is native.
We did mention another plant that's in there a lot. Privit is one of the ones you want to take out in here. All right, we'd like to take out all these
I have not had good luck with it on the multiflora roads. It tends to break that up, and that's something that you get that out of my yard.
How about this big privet back here? Can you try that one?
Oh, yeah, probably. I was working my way back to it. There you go.
Right.
If you look, when Bob pulled that out by the roots, it actually makes a nice hole. Like I dug up these this morning, these spice bush. So we could put a spice bush right in that hole where he dug it up. And that's one advantage of actually pulling them up rather than herbiciding and cutting them, is that you now have a hole, and if you put another plant directly in there, you're really starting things up in a good way. So we can put one of these spice bushes in one of these holes.
Let's try we've got a multiflora road here. Let's try it.
The city will pick them up for us here, but in your own yard, you'd have to like take them to the city compost and have them mulch them or something, or burn them if you're out in the country.
That was not
You know,
working
these things
well.
are spreading out all over northwest Arkansas. Well, do you want to divide them up into groups of 5, Nancy? That's a cedar. That's nice. This here is a greenbrier, and I think that's some kind of clematis. That's what I think, but I'm not sure. Oh, maybe you could be right. You could be right. You could be right. Coralberry, I don't know. Where?
Yes. You know, we don't need to be pulling that's got lots of it. It's really easy to dig all.
Oh, good. That would be a good one to put in here.
I mean, it's just, I just don't,
Just to work on things? Yeah? Okay, you're going to try that thing? You get up this privet here? I think this is privet right here. And
Front piece, right out here.
Oh,
And hold that down while you pull the handle back
all right.
until it grabs on.
Okay.
And once it grabs on, just step back and pull.
Boy, that's a hard one. Might need to be bigger.
Just rock it.
Okay, yeah,
Keep
it's
rocking
fun.
it.
It's fun.
There you go. Right, now just reach down and pull it off.
Okay.
There you go.
Satisfying.
And also this is bush honeysuckle here. So let's take that out a bit so we can at least see what we're doing. Right? Put them out. Oh, and see, it's all tangled with this multiflora rose. I don't want to cut your hand off. So there's a privet. And look at this. You see, I mean, this is the multiflora rose. And it's not supposed to really vine, but that's a vine. And if we can get it out of here, we can then dig it up. And they can have bad thorns. Now this, wait, what is this? This is all tangled up. This might be that clematis, yeah.
Blooms yellow or red. That's the native honeysuckle. It's not as aggressive. So native to one of us.
Well, we actually
about to bloom. That's a big privet.
Okay. Okay. This over her skin. This is a multiflora rose, and this will like really do pleasures and joys. This is really nasty. So,
Yeah, it did say in the manual, be careful not to let it.
look at that. Let's get this stuff out of here.
Yeah, that's great.
Wow. Allison, we're getting there. We're almost ready to have the plant. Does it? Hey, where is our press? A nice spice bush. And that's a beautiful plant in spring. Try to get it up. It's a beautiful little plant. So you can put it in the... And then that looks... I think that's probably going to be all right. And then cover up, put dirt around it.
Oh, there's a nice worm too.
Yeah.
You go ahead and work on that.
Good job.
Oh yeah.
Well,
Multi-talent.
we pulled all the bases out. We dug them full.
That's good.
It's like whatever. This is the president throw the first ball. That's the thing. It's actually hard work. This stuff is amazing.
Now this is
Look at our crew.
interesting creature.
Good job,
That
Allison.
is, but
Good job.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
He's a good guy. We can put him,
hognose snake.
yeah, you can put him down on the riverside. He'll be okay.
They're around $100 for this size. Yeah.
I want to plant a couple of the experiments with the dibble board.
That's look nice.
Bicycle.
Dang, they just planted a silky dogwood.
Now it needs its